The morning it all began, a scream tore across the quiet town of Red Hollishril, panicked and unmistakably belonging to Margaret Hale, the judge's wife. Folks rushed out of shops and saloons, pointing toward the dust cloud rising near the North Ridge. By the time Sheriff Porter galloped closer, he saw something that froze him in place. Margaret, trembling, riding on the back of a strange horse, and beside her rode the last man anyone expected Calder Wynne. The lone rancher the whole town had spent years avoiding. Calder was a man who kept to himself. He lived miles from town in a rundown cabin on land no one else wanted. Rumors clung to him like dust that he'd killed his own brother. His land was haunted, that his eyes turned cold as winter when he got angry. Most had never spoken a full sentence to him, but that didn't stop them from fearing him. They liked their stories more than the truth, and now, there he was, riding down the main road with the judge's wife, her hair tangled, her face ghostly. Pale, people whispered, gasped, drew their children behind them. By the time they reached the sheriff's office, the crowd was thick, and every eye burned with the same question: what has that rancher done? Margaret's voice shook as she dismounted. "Sheriff, help." But before she could say more, Calder stepped forward, calm, quiet, unreadable. His shirt was torn, dried blood on the sleeve. "She's safe now," he said. "I did what I had to." A murmur rippled through the crowd, dark, accusing. The judge, red-faced and furious, shoved forward. "What did you do to my wife, Wynne?" Calder looked at the man with steady eyes. "Saved her," the judge growled. "Saved her? My wife goes missing for half a day. And you," he pointed like he was accusing the devil himself, "you bring her back looking like she's seen hell." "What? Did you really do?" Margaret tried to speak, but her voice collapsed into sobs. And that was enough for the town to decide. Within minutes, Calder Wynne was locked in a cell, and whispers turned to certainty. He had harmed her, hurt her, frightened her, whatever happened out near the ridge, the lone rancher must be to blame. Yet Calder never raised his voice, never defended himself. He simply sat in that cell, staring out the window as if waiting for something or someone. Hours earlier, while the sun was still rising, Margaret Hale had been trying to gather wildflowers near the ridge. The judge never let her wander far, but it was her birthday, and she wanted a little freedom. She didn't see the rattlesnake until it reared up, striking her horse. The animal bucked violently, throwing her down a steep slope. She twisted her ankle, hit her head, and when she blinked awake, she heard rustling in the trees. Bandits dashed, 2 of them cowboys she faintly recognized from previous court cases her husband had overseen. Men who had sworn revenge, men who had waited for the right moment. She couldn't run, she couldn't scream. All she could do was pray. But instead of finding her, the bandits found a different man roaming the woods. Calder, carrying feed for his stray cattle. Calder lived a life shaped by tragedy. Years ago, his younger brother had died in a prairie accident while Calder was away. The town blamed him, and in time, Calder blamed himself. He withdrew from everyone, choosing solitude over judgment. But he was no killer, no monster. Just a man broken quietly. When he heard Margaret's cry echo weakly from the ridge, something in him sparked an old instinct to protect, one that grief had buried but never killed. He confronted the bandits without hesitation. The fight was brutal, quick, dusty, and desperate. One man fled, the other wasn't so lucky. Here, Calder tied the survivor, hoisted Margaret onto his horse, and rode straight to town, not caring how it looked, only that she was alive. But Red Hollow preferred stories over truth. And a bloody rancher returning with the judge's shaken wife was to find a story to resist. That night in the jail, the sun fading orange through the bars, the door creaked open. Margaret, limping but determined, walked inside. Sheriff Porter followed hesitantly, unsure whether to stop her. Calder stood up but said nothing. Her hands shook as she faced him. "I tried to speak earlier, but I couldn't breathe. I was terrified not of you, of what almost happened." The sheriff frowned. "Mrs. Hale, are you saying he didn't hurt you?" Margaret looked at Calder, tears filling her eyes. "Saved my life. He fought 2 men for me. One of them meant to." Her voice broke. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Calder defended me, carried me, protected me. The sheriff exhaled sharply. Why didn't he say any of this? Calder shrugged. Didn't seem like anyone wanted to hear it. Margaret turned to the sheriff. Release him. But the judge was already storming through the door, his anger rising like a storm. Absolutely not. He put his hands on my wife. He should have come to me, not dragged her around town like some spectacle. Margaret whipped around, her voice stronger than anyone had heard from her before. Your pride almost cost me my life. Calder saved me because you weren't there. The room went silent. Even the sheriff winced. Seeing Margaret's trembling resolve, Calder stepped back. Don't get yourself in trouble on my account. But she shook her head. No. You deserve the truth. And so she told it. Every detail. Every fear. Every moment Calder shielded her from harm. By the end of her narration, the judge's fury had wilted into shameful silence. The sheriff unlocked the cell door. The townsfolk were harder to convince. Rumors die slow in places like Red Hollow. Some apologized. Many didn't. Most simply avoided Calder's eyes, embarrassed by how quickly they had condemned him. But Margaret didn't avoid him. 2 days later, she visited the ranch with a basket of bread and bandages. Calder met her at the gate, confused. But grateful. You don't owe me anything, he said quietly. She shook her head. I owe you my life, and maybe this town owes you more than it knows. In the following weeks, she began speaking publicly about what happened, the real story. Her voice carried weight, and slowly the town's view of Calder Wynne softened. Folks stopped crossing the street when they saw him. Some even waved. Few asked for help with cattle or fencing. Calder, surprised but willing, lent a hand. Red Hollow learned something important. A man's silence doesn't make him guilty, and a reputation built on rumor isn't truth. As for Calder, he didn't seek praise or apologies. But he did something no one expected. He forgave them, because a town that had once judged him now understood him, even if just a little. That was enough. Margaret continued to visit, sometimes bringing fresh bread, sometimes bringing nothing but conversation. Bit by bit, the lonely rancher found himself less alone, and though the town would long remember the day the judge's wife rode in behind Calder Wynne, horrified and shaken, they would remember something far more powerful in the years that followed. Sometimes, the person you fear most is the person most willing to save you.